I'm Jarrad Brown, Australian expat financial planner based here in Singapore. Welcome to my video series where we tackle the tough personal finance questions asked by Australian expats. Today I want to share with you some information about employee stock or company stock that you're offered and receive as part of your remuneration. We're going to look at some of the risks and what you might want to consider, particularly if employer stock makes up a large portion of your overall package. So let's dive right in. Now we all know the old saying, you shouldn't put all of your eggs in one basket. But are we actually applying this philosophy when it comes to our company or employer stock? For a lot of people that we meet, the answer is no. We're just allowing the stock to accumulate, we're assuming that the company will be perfectly fine, will remain employed, and the stock price will continue to rise. But is this always the case? Let's just consider the worst case scenario before we dive into some of the things that you may want to consider. All is going well until one day the company faces headwinds. Now maybe you're working for a hotel and we're hit with something like COVID-19. Now obviously this has been a bit of a black swan event. No one predicted that this would happen, but it's meant that a lot of hotels, a lot of tourism operators have shut down completely, or at the very least seen significant cuts to their workforce, and many of our clients, or many Australian expats rather, have seen significant cuts to their overall remuneration. Now, what if you've got all of your employer stock, all of your investments in your company, and you've just lost your job as well? Now, chances are, with bad news like that, the stock price is also going to take a hit. Instead, over time, we could have been diversifying, we could have been gradually selling down some of our company stock where possible, and then diversifying our investment mix. Now, where things could get even trickier is if you're in a high tax jurisdiction. Now, what if we're faced with capital gains tax in addition to real losses on our investments? That could also be problematic, particularly if we've let those shares accumulate for a number of years and we're now residing in a higher tax jurisdiction, such as Australia, the UK, or even the United States. Again, important to seek professional tax advice here. Now, if the risks are so high, should we actually consider our company stock plan at all? And should we actually consider investing in our employer's stock? So let's have a look at that. Now, for many companies, they offer what is called a discounted share purchase plan, or some variation of that. Now, for some, it'll be part of their short-term or long-term incentive plan to be issued with company stock, and others will have this discounted plan that is a voluntary participation model, which means that you can instruct your payroll or your HR team that you wish to invest a certain amount of your salary each month for each year in the discounted plan. Now this discount might be 5, 10 or 15% off the share price at the time, and in some cases the company will even match your contributions. Now in these cases, and in many cases, as a general rule of thumb, we'd be crazy not to at least consider participating in something like this. But what is important to bear in mind is that we may want to gradually reduce our exposure, so we may want to participate and gradually sell down our positions. Again, important to seek professional advice and consider how this could impact you. So this is not a blanket rule, but it's just one way of avoiding creating too much exposure to one individual company. So now that we know how employer stock works, what some of the risks may be, what do you actually need to consider? I would suggest there are two critical items to monitor on a regular basis. The first of these is to actually monitor how much exposure, how much of your net worth, your personal balance sheet, is exposed to that one particular stock. Now, if that number represents 70, 80, 90%, it's potentially time to start considering diversifying. As a general rule of thumb, I'd like to see that sitting below 20%. But again, there is no one-size-fits-all approach to this. So again, it's important to seek personal professional advice to work out what that number should look like for you. But if you're participating in a share purchase plan or receiving stock as part of your salary every year, that may build up quite quickly. So important to track this one on a regular basis. The second item I would suggest monitoring fairly closely is any tax exposure. If you eventually do sell that stock, are you going to get hit with estate taxes if it's a US company? Are you going to get hit with inheritance tax? Are you going to get hit with capital gains tax? Particularly important for Australian expats or Australians considering returning to Australia, or who are already living in Australia with a lot of company stock. So both of those are important to monitor, track on a regular basis, just to avoid any nasty surprises in future. I hope this has been helpful. I hope it's given you a few things to think about and consider. Thank you very much for joining us. If you have anything to add or you have any questions that we haven't yet covered, fire them through. We'd love to hear from you, and maybe we can even turn them into a future video. Thank you again for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you next time.